Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. With a coach that has a near universal approval rating, and he should after the season that he had, Mark Pope and his Kentucky Wildcats. First of all, wild to me how close we are to college basketball. Okay, so many of you are going to listen on Friday. 3 weeks from Friday, we're going to have actually one of the best nights of college basketball, and the season hasn't even started. Friday, October 25th. So is it 2 weeks away? Am I wrong on that? Is it 2 weeks, not 3 weeks? Kentucky hosts Purdue. Louisville hosts Kansas. And BYU hosts UNC in exhibition games. So all of a sudden, exhibition games are the new rage, by the way, because Kentucky fans are going to want it. Louisville fans are going to want it. BYU fans are going to want it. We'll probably preview those games on this show, even though they're exhibitions. I just bring it up because college basketball is so close. Big Blue Madness is on Saturday. There is reason for excitement, Kentucky basketball fans. But there should be especially reason for excitement after this week. Why is that? Earlier this week, Kentucky basketball held its pro day. I think if you watch this show, if you're watching this clip later on, pro day is, and all these schools have them now. John Calipari was the originator back at Kentucky about a decade ago. But all these schools invite all these NBA teams in, and basically it gives all these NBA teams an evaluation and a baseline of evaluation going into the season. So you can see guys, you watch them play 5-on-5, you watch them work out, you get a height, a weight, a leap, a this, a that. I don't know if by rule you can actually talk to play, but this has become a thing. I think there's something like 25, 28, 30 teams that are hosting pro days this year. I know Miami had a pro day with Jay Lucas. I know Arkansas had its pro day last week, but Kentucky had its pro day on Tuesday night. It was streamed on the SEC, app, so SEC Plus. And I think there was some interesting conversation that came out of it. Now, as a consumer, as a viewer, it's hard to watch. There's a lot of talking. There's a lot of interviews, whatever. But the big conversation is what do fans take out of it? But also, what do the NBA scouts that are coming in take out of it? Well, I bring it up because there was an NBA scout there that did an interview with Kentucky Sports Radio with Jack Pilgrim. And if you are a UK fan, you have got to be excited about what this scout said about the state of Kentucky Wildcat basketball coming into 2025, 2026. Producer Matt, what did the scout say? NBA scout in Lexington for Pro Day says, quote, I expect them, this is Kentucky, to be one of the best teams in the country because they have as much depth as anybody we're going to see. I call them Noah's Ark because they've got two of everything. I literally have 9 prospects on Kentucky's team on my NBA draft radar. I think that's the most of any team going into this year. Goodness. The meme of the woman fainting into somebody else's arms. That should be, forget Mark Stoops at that $37 million buyout. You'll worry about that on another day because today, right now, it is about Kentucky basketball. And I just don't know how you cannot be excited about this team. Okay, so first of all, we've said this since April when the roster came together. This is, in my opinion, the deepest team in college basketball. And I think what's especially interesting is that it's not just a collection of individual talent, but it's pieces that really do complement each other well. And I think during the spring, there was a conversation of, did you take too many guys? But this is how Mark Pope wants to play. He wants to play fast. He wants to get up and down. He wants to score a lot. We found out this week he wants to press more on defense. Well, to do that, you need bodies. And if this was Dan Hurley, who only likes to play 6-7 players, if it was Mark Few, if it was Eric Musselman, if it was even John Calipari, I'd be a little bit worried. But with Pope in his system, you need a lot of players to reach your full potential. Look at last year. Last year, when they were fully healthy, they beat Duke. When they were fully healthy, they beat the eventual champion Florida Gators. When they were fully healthy, they beat Gonzaga in Seattle. And they weren't even fully healthy. Kirk Creasy was hurt at that point. But I just bring it up because we saw what they were like at full strength, but we also saw that as the injuries piled up, Lamont Butler's shoulder, Jackson Robinson, what was it, a hand or a thumb or something? I can't even remember. Kirk Creasy's foot. As time went on, they just didn't have enough bodies. And I actually thought Mark Pope did his best coaching, not when they beat Duke and Florida at full strength, but when they beat, Illinois in the round of 32, when they were basically playing with what do they call it? A mash unit. Like they were playing with a mash unit the final 3-4 weeks of that season. They go to Oklahoma and win. They beat Oklahoma in the SEC tournament. They beat Illinois in the NCAA tournament. I thought that was his best coaching. Well, the good news is you don't have to worry about it this year because they have so many bodies. And as this guy said, Noah's Ark, too deep at every position. This is an anonymous scout via Kentucky Sports Radio. And what stands out to me is a couple things. Is one, the volume of good players that they have. First of all, I'll say this. Listen, I think you guys know this is a college show that we do. Of course, I pay attention to the NBA draft, and of course I this, and of course I that. 7 dudes that they have as NBA prospects, that is insane. Now, all of them aren't going to the NBA next year. Jasper Johnson might get there eventually. Malachi Moreno might get there eventually. Cam Williams might get there eventually. But if you have 7 dudes on your roster that the NBA folks believe are NBA players, it means you can play with and you can beat anybody in college basketball. And I just go back to, I've said this from the beginning. Kentucky has so many guys on their team. You kind of just forget about guys, right? Like go back to going and watching the media thing or the pro day on whatever it was on Tuesday night. You know who was probably the best player there? Not the best player, but relative to expectations. The biggest surprise maybe is the right way to put it. Probably Colin Chandler. Now, I saw him in an exhibition game last year. I said, that dude's an NBA player. With respect to Colin Chandler, this is not intended to be disrespectful. When we talk about Kentucky's best players and lineups and this and that, Colin Chandler isn't the first name that we bring up. He's probably not even the 5th name that he's going to bring up, but he was a guy that stood out to NBA people at the pro day the other day. By the way, who has consistently been viewed as the best shooter on that roster? Jalen Lowe over the summer called him the best shooter he's ever played with. Trent Noah. Nobody talks about Trent Noah when we're talking about the best players on Kentucky's roster, and that dude might be the best shooter on the team. And so you go across this team, I think it makes it so fascinating because when you get into the heart of the season, one, your schedule is insane. I'm going to miss some games here, but off the top of my head, at Louisville, tickets are on sale, by the way. Matt, you know what we got to do. SeatGeek.com, promo code Torres, gets you $20 off your first purchase. So if you need tickets to any of these games, I wasn't even thinking about doing this. SeatGeek.com, promo code Torres, $20 off your first purchase to any of these games. So SeatGeek.com, promo code Torres, $20 off. But with this schedule, you're going to need that depth. At Louisville, Michigan State, Champions Classic, St. John's in Atlanta, Gonzaga in Nashville, Indiana at Rupp Arena, Purdue in a preseason. By the way, that SeatGeek code applies to everything, preseason, postseason, whatever. SeatGeek.com, promo code Torres. Bring it up solely to say you're going to need that depth. But 2, there are just so many guys that you just, like, even as a consumer, I know this roster up and down that you don't even think about. When I think about this roster, I think about Jalen Lowe, who's going to be an all-SEC caliber point guard. I think of Otega Owe, who didn't even play in this pro day because of an injury. Otega Owe is going to be all SEC. Mo Diabate is one of my favorite players. I've said since the day he committed, he will be a fan favorite. Jaden Quaintance, who probably will be on the court sooner rather than later, was actually, I believe, going through drills, even if he's not 100%. Brandon Garrison, we don't talk about him. Malachi Moreno, we don't talk about him. And when I say we don't talk about him, I don't mean that we actually don't talk about him. I'm just saying that these aren't the guys that we think about. We think about Mo Diabate. We think about Jalen Lowe. We think about Otega Owe. We think about Brandon Garrison. And then you forget that, oh, by the way, Cam Williams might be their best NBA draft prospect. Colin Chandler could play in the league someday. Trent Noah might be the best three-point shooter on their roster. Jasper Johnson played really well with Team USA in the summer. And I think the great thing about him, he's in a spot where he doesn't have to be great, where he can come off the bench, get comfortable, get reps, and then next year be a star. So I could go on and on, but man, oh man, if you're a Kentucky fan, how can you not be excited about reading that. Matt, you could pop it up one more time. I want to reread that. This is from an NBA scout talking about the Kentucky Wildcats basketball team. I expect them to be one of the best teams in the country because they have so much depth as anybody we're going to see. I call them Noah's Ark because they have two of everything. I literally have 9 NBA prospects on Kentucky's team that are on my radar. I think that's the most of any team I'm going to see this year. Kentucky fans, get excited. As I said, Big Blue Madness is on Saturday. I think my math is wrong. 2 weeks until the Purdue exhibition. I know what I'm doing that Friday night. Yeah, I'm locked in. Rupp Arena, on and on.